49 Alva. Despite the ignorance I encountered at the beginning of my healing journey with DAD, there were always nice people to meet. I just couldn't feel worthy of the nice ones, the empathetic and respectful ones. My kind principal at the community college, my doctor at the medical center, my classmates and teachers, the Freya people. Even to this day I am afraid to be close to them because it hurts so much to lose Elsa, Freya. But I see them, I hear them, my friends. I started making ghost dolls, fantasy creations, about used plastic dolls at the flea markets and turned them into sad little ghosts using acrylic paints. I also took the doll I have had since childhood and simply painted it into a ghost and sold it to the goths on eBay. Sometime later, I missed it. By a happy coincidence, I found a copy of that doll at a flea market. I washed it and freshened it up, and when I woke up the next morning, I found myself holding the doll's hand. She was not a ghost, but my beautiful foundling. Another support I got from somewhere was from the orcas, which I have continued to dream about. Fredrika and I had become well aware of each other. My small apartment is an attic apartment on the outskirts of Stockholm, and the December darkness was once again held at bay by the candlesticks and poinsettias shining in the windows of the neighboring houses. My body was exhausted, but was now buzzing with the beginnings of a recovery during the Christmas weeks. I had contracted an autoimmune disease, and somewhere I knew I had to break free. However, I did not know how, or even from what. What I did know was that Fredrika was blocking me. But you can't manage, said Fredrika. You are volatile and light, so how can you carry on? Give me a chance, I said. I can do more than you think. I can do more than you know. But I agreed with her. Knew she was right. I was thin and flighty, not strong. I'm tired, Fredrika complained. She really was. Tired of having the emotional maturity of a 9-year-old and having to carry the full responsibility of an adult. I want you to take over, she cried. I don't want to block you. It's your life. I'll try, I said, moving my little finger 1 millimeter where it was curled up in my space. I'm not really frozen. Look, I can move my arms. I just did it. I'm going to get out of here. There was a documentary on TV about Luna the orca, who, instead of joining his pod of killer whales at sea, chose to stay in an Alaskan port. He was a young orca whale, just a boy. He lived in the harbor and socialized with the Alaskans, sorting lumber and greeting his friends, following fishing boats and playing. The town was divided into 2 camps between those who loved Luna and those who thought he was a nuisance who was destroying the fishing industry. It was decided to take him out to sea, but Luna said no, thanks, and swam happily back to his port. But he got caught in a boat engine and was killed. I want to die, said Fredrika. I want to do it for you. I'm tired too. As I cried like never before, Fredrika and I became one. It felt different the next day. I felt clear and lucid. I was calm and harmonious, safe and whole. I was me. I saw Luna's big, powerful body lovingly floating above me. as if protecting me. Fredrika was not gone, but she had handed over the helm to me and shrunk. I got access to everything she had previously protected me from, all the memories, but I was ready, and besides, there was a lot of valuable and beautiful life there among all the memories, not only abuse. Life became much easier. I ended the therapy with Nanny Klein, which had become damaging, and decided that I would be fine now, and had myself a nice break, eating chips and chocolate, watching comedies. I allowed myself to eat when and what I wanted and made no demands on myself at all for a while. I painted dolls and wrote because I thought it was fun, slept all day, watched movies all night. I liked singing and music, so I joined a church choir, and it worked well. Was reasonable social, still full of community, and I liked the spiritual songs. Apart from singing in a choir, I hardly met any people, but talked online with other dull people, shared photographs of our odd hobby, and had fun. I rested from everything so well that after a few years, I started to feel like a space traveler again, locked in my lonely spaceship somewhere above the Earth. It wasn't that I had stopped associating, but it showed up in a different way now compared to before. I had merged with Fredrika's overview and her rich memories of life, and I had some control over the parts now. I couldn't decide who and when someone could come to the surface, but I could communicate with them when they did and coexist, so to speak. I was calm and content during the day, but at night I was often up and about. I would sleepwalk, waking up in odd places in the apartment. I also had night terrors and would dream of an indistinct looming horror or a malevolent being, and would float around the darkened apartment, terrified, until I realized I needed to turn on the light. But no matter how I tried, I could not turn on the light. I had no hands because it was a spirit. Then I woke up, sat up, and turned on the lamp. Kira was doing well with her new family. She had become a very affectionate German Shepherd despite my condition. We had laughed a lot together while she juggled sticks with a keen eye on me. The family told me that when the postman arrived, Kira ran up and jumped in the car window to the frightened mailman because she was so happy to see him. I missed her soft forehead, her heavy head in my lap. Her paw defiantly slapping my hand when I said, "Give me 5." We had stood in the window and howled when the town's alarm signal was tested once every 6 months. She had met October when he was a kitten and pulled a shoelace for him to chase. October October was born in a tuxedo, with only a bow tie missing from his neck. He is a noble and friendly creature. When I came to look at the big litter of Siamese kittens, he was dozing sweetly in his blanket, while his wild siblings roamed the floor. But then he woke up and came to settle in my lap. Now I have 3 cats. October, with his noble manner, is communicative and always responds to appeals. He has many different sounds, and you can hear exactly how he feels when he chases after a prey with a definite roar, or when he has been scolded for being too bossy, then it becomes a shameful me, and he is allergic to everything. His little sister is a mixed breed, red and round, with a delicate little face and big eyes whose pupils become enormous when a meal is approaching. She captures every mood like a satellite dish, and her fur twitches. The line between gentle and crazy is a fine one. Femi communicates deeply and sincerely, bathes her siblings, takes care of the household, looks after the dolls, and philosophizes about the world's problems. Saga is a big all-white oaf of a cat, and deaf to boot. So, we have sign language. She meows innocently in response to my hand movements and closes her eyes contentedly. The first time I met her, she looked at me deeply and analytically, and then she went and sat in the water bowl. She has continued to wander around, knocking things over and placing her large body in pots and on shelves that have given way under her weight. Now the little critters are happily dozing on the blanket. I was able to get to know some of my own quirks too. For example, I have synesthesia, which means that words, numbers, and letters have different colors for me. A is white, 1 is gray-white, B is brown, 2 is blue, C is orange, D is navy blue, and so on. I think we accumulate our characteristics over several lives. The strange thing about the integration with Fredrika was that we didn't become Alva as much as I became Ellen. And I have dreamt of Ellen in one of the home movies played for me in my dreams. She was a very introverted woman who did not get a chance to live and show who she was, and I have a feeling she gave up. It was as if I had regressed back to the soul I had been before I was born as Alva in this life. Now Ellen was here, and she would get to know Alva, get to know who she is in this life. So as the caterpillar would say to Alice, "Who are you?" Is there supposed to be a simple answer to that? In Elsa's eyes, it would have been a given, but I had not seen Elsa since I was 7 years old. Since then, I had grown up. Somewhere along the rubble was my entire identity. I watched movies with male groups, male bonding, male humor. I was overjoyed when I found a box of men's clothes in the attic space. I looked at other people who had experienced such traumas like mine, but who had partners, spouses, roommates. So why was the idea so impossible for me? I didn't even know if I preferred men or women. Men hurt you. Men were violent perpetrators. Men's bodies were dangerous. I was glad I was a woman, even though I wasn't. I didn't understand that thing about shoes, and when I put on earrings or high heels, I felt incredibly uncomfortable. Maybe men weren't so bad after all. Actually, I was just like them, I thought, and so I got dreadlocks and enjoyed it because it was such a gender-neutral look. That's how I lived for a few years. I sang in church and petted the cats and watched Will Ferrell. The ground was still rocking, swaying, a physical sensation. It came and passed, but sometimes it was as if I was on a boat, and it could last for weeks. I started to leave my little corner and get back to life and the outside world. Participating in support groups via Skype proved to work for me. The other participants were at a safe distance. We talked a lot about inner children, and I was constantly working on creating all my reborn children. The twins, of course. Oh, how I love them. And all the other children, the boy and the girl who could not be my children, but had to travel back to the stars. I felt no fear of my dolls, no phobia or pain. They were just children, and doll by doll, I could slowly accept that they were all precious. But when I was done, someone always had to be pushed away. My hobby was enough to give me joy in life. I had a safe and good life, except that Elsa was missing, like an amputated body part. Other twinless twins have experienced what I feel, that even though we lost our twin early in life, we know them well in spirit. She has been with me and see what I have seen. She has grown up with me. I often saw her in front of me on the couch, lying on the bed with a book, trudging to the commuter train. We sat next to each other on the seat. I feel her standing and looking at me as I sit and write. She is the beginning and the end for me. We are for each other. Chapter 49 comments. I was spacey. I suppose that's how I am. My focus was on children, dolls, animals. I never developed any adult sub-personalities because I'd been working through my trauma since my late teens. As a young adult, my focus was constantly on keeping a diary, healing my soul, and coming to terms with my traumas. I kept to myself and wasn't exposed to any life-threatening situations or other circumstances that demanded more than what my children and I were capable of. That's why the splitting came to a halt after my 16-year-old. I didn't feel at home or validated in my body and identity either, which makes you even more fuzzy around the edges. My subconscious was active, but my consciousness was as if frozen. Today I am whole, but back then 75% of me was missing. But however stuck I may have been as I followed the breadcrumbs I found on the path, I knew that I was a soul, an identity that existed. It was an emptiness I felt, but a driving force. Twins are each other's other half, cut from the same cloth, and yet they aren't. Twins are individuals. So, is Elsa my twin sister, or is she my innermost self? The answer is both.